Well, he can be baited with a 1-minute ad on cable news. He can be baited by anything. And he does not have the emotional stability to be president in the United States. As we saw for 4 years, and we don't want to see for another 4.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to George Conway Explains It All. To Sarah, I'm Sarah Longwell, publisher of the Bulwark, and because I'm not a lawyer, I've asked my good friend George Conway to explain the legal news to me. But George, I can't tell you, I'm too hopped up on national politics. Too many things are happening. Yeah, let me just tell you. Okay, so I can't help it. We will get to legal news on the back end. Joe Biden's rolling out some stuff on the Supreme Court. I promise we're going to talk about it. But I just have to ask you, if you watched at the National Association of Black Journalists have a total toddler meltdown. Did you see it?
It was brilliant. Yes, absolutely. It was a long time coming. We knew he had it in him, and we just had to have faith that he would come through for us, and he did. Flying colors. I really want to give special thanks to whoever it was on Trump's campaign who got him to do that. It was a brilliant idea. I hope he does it again. It was just great, and it couldn't have come out better.
So I gotta say, there's something happening on the Republican side in their response to this. We're like, but it was so brave of him to go there. It was so, I mean, he really went in there to, sit down with these black journalists. I'm like, what is so brave about talking to some journalists? Why? What is it? Is it because he's an active racist that people think that it's a big deal that he sits down with these black female journalists? Because otherwise, you could just say Donald Trump had an interview, and because he's a psycho, melted down during it.
I mean, just think of how easy it would be if Donald Trump were normal to deal with these journalists. If he hadn't said all these insane things, they wouldn't have anything to ask him about that was, tough. So, Donald Trump deserves a lot of credit for putting himself in the position where he said so many insane and racist things that it becomes a challenge for him to talk to people. And we have to applaud his ability to go in there and face and refuse to answer and get upset at questions incorporating things that he has said and done.
Oh my God. That was really the best part, was the opening question. I mean, there were many great parts, but one of them, I'm not even going to be able to effort this on Twitter fast enough to find it. But it was like, the journalist opened, with the ABC journalist with, so you said,
he said all these racist things.
You said this about Kamala Harris. You said this, you did this with the overturning, and just said a bunch of things that Donald Trump has said. And he was like, you are the rudest and nastiest person. And the Sean Hannity chyron was, Trump gets rude questions. And I was like, they're just asking him about things that he said. That's allowed,
really
right?
Just quoting himself back at him. I mean, yeah, you said this, you said this, you said this, you said this. So why should anyone believe you when you try to make nice to black voters?
That's not even what she asked. It wasn't even that pointed. It was just like, you've said all these things. What do you mean when you call Kamala Harris a DEI pick? And he's like, what is DEI? I mean, this was some high quality content. But this is the thing I really want your opinion on.
Yes, ma'am.
So there is a debate happening about whether or not the National Association of Black Journalists should have platformed Donald Trump, should have had him there. And I have a strong view on this, but I'd like to hear your view.
I have a strong view that they did a great job platforming him, bringing him out, getting him to talk. And I think that one of the things that happened over the last few years is that a lot of liberals were saying, don't give him a platform, don't cut off his oxygen. And no, that's not, that helps him now. Because what helped him was him being deplatformed in 2021. And people have forgotten what an absolute lunatic he was. I mean, remember, his own White House had to pull the plug on those coronavirus briefings because they were so bad and he was so insane. Well, this is what happens when you get unadulterated, adulterous but unadulterated Donald Trump on the airwaves. Is he has a chance of melting down. And then if you make fun of him for melting down, he will melt down some more. He can't take it. And I think what people have forgotten is that they just think that, we've thrown everything at him. It's like, no, you haven't never really done it. You kind of throw one thing at him and then you say, look at him, he's crazy, and then you give up. No, you have to keep hammering at him. The more you keep hammering at him, the more he feels the pressure, and the more he does screwball things. And that's what we're seeing now. The pressure is coming at him from all directions now.
Yeah, so I found this that was like Fox breaking news. ABC journalist begins Trump interview with insults. And the insults, she just read him his statements.
Right.
Is how she started it.
If it's an insult to read him his own remarks, then that says something about his own remarks.
Perhaps he should be less of a jerk if he doesn't want to hear them read back to him. Okay.
Yes.
So here's my other question. Oh, also, and for the record, I 100% agree with you. I think that people have been giving Trump, taking him off Twitter, muting his mic, taking him off Facebook, not running his rallies on cable the way that they used to. I think it has done him a huge service. I think it's the reason he has been able to bounce back after the insurrection. And we have seen this phenomenon over the years that we've had Trump in our lives, which has been almost a decade now, and it's terrible. But the more voters see of Trump, his approval rating goes down. The less voters see of him, his approval rating goes up. So show them the crazy man.
Right. And here's the thing about it. People have precisely because people have forgotten about how crazy he was, because basically they haven't had to watch him day in and day out for 3.5 years. It now strikes them as completely insane. We've freshened him up for the public but actually it's now hurting him, the fact that he was in the basement for 3 years. Now it's all of a sudden the people are saying, "Oh God, I remember this. This reminds me."
That's right.
Oh man, remember the time oh God. And it's like, we don't want to do this again. Even I think there are going to be people who were inclined to vote for Trump. Maybe they voted for Trump the first time, but not the second. Or maybe they held their nose and voted for him twice. I think there are just going to be people who are going to say, "I can't take this. We need something new and different." And guess what? The Democrats are providing something new and different.
That's right. And over at Republican
Black
voters
and Indian,
Trump,
whatever you want.
over at Republican voters against Trump, we have tons of Trump voters who are refused to vote for Trump again. And so those people absolutely exist. I think a lot of people feel like things are static, like things are baked in, but you don't realize how much somebody's vote last time was like, I don't know, I was younger, I wasn't really paying attention to politics, or, I was voting mainly on the economy, or I wanted things to open up around COVID, but now I've watched Trump and I could never vote for him again. Or January 6th, how much that was a red line for a number of people. So that's real. Here's the other thing about yesterday, though, that I wanted to ask you about just a little bit, because I think that everybody's talking about sort of the racist, the crazy stuff he said about she's not black, she's an Indian, who then she became black, right? Like just insane stuff. And so that captures your attention. And it, I think, obfuscates the fact that if you listen to the rest of the conversation, he does two things that I thought were interesting. One is around J.D. Vance. So he gets asked if J.D. Vance is ready on day one, and he was basically like, J.D. who? Only people, they just vote for the top of the ticket. Like, he's fine, he likes families, but it was like this incredibly bizarre answer. But the second one, and the one I think is salient to you and your sort of ongoing critique of him, he sounded nuts. Like it was a word salad from start to finish. It was without the split screen of Biden and him being just sort of existing on his own. You think, he couldn't defend his policy positions. He couldn't do a back and forth with those journalists. Like, he sounded awful. Right.
He sounded awful. I mean, he's clearly deteriorated. But to go back to even the first point that you were talking about, how he gave this bizarre answer about J.D. Vance, that's also due to his psychological issues. He's a narcissist. He's a malignant narcissist. He only cares about himself. No one else is important. So he's not going to say, "Oh, J.D. Vance would make a great president. He could step in immediately and be president," because that would be saying like Donald Trump is replaceable. The world is about Donald Trump. Vance is just filling a slot there. He's not important. And that's the way Donald Trump views it. He doesn't care that people out there might care he doesn't care that people out there might care that Donald Trump is old and might not make it through his term.
He'll be 82 when he's done.
And so that they will be extra concerned about who the vice president is, the same way that the Republicans profess to be concerned about Kamala Harris, and now they've gotten what they wanted. So he can't help but make it about himself and therefore diminish the guy he should be burnishing and selling to the American public as this great choice, which he can't do because many of the people who work with Trump now don't believe that Vance was a great choice.
Yeah, like they asked him if Vance was going to be ready on day one, and Donald Trump literally didn't answer the question. He couldn't.
Right.
And that seems like maybe for somebody who is very old, that your constituents, your voters, the people in America, they might care about that a little bit.
He can't behave rationally. I mean, he cannot behave rationally. He's doubling down on the Kamala Harris isn't black, she's Indian thing today. He tweeted or posted some picture of Kamala Harris with her Indian forebears or relatives. And, it's like he's really doubling down on this because what happens is if you call him out for doing something crazy, he can't admit he's wrong because of his narcissism. So he ends up doubling down, which is why you can never let up with this guy. Hit him again, so he keeps doubling and tripling and quadrupling down. If you stop attacking him, he'll go back and he'll talk about something else that may be just as insane. But you want him to keep doubling down on his mistakes, and the way to do that is to point his mistakes out in real time.
So I know you think he's just nuts, but sometimes I think, is he crazy or is he crazy like a fox? And I'll tell you what I mean by this.
Yeah.
I do think that Trump was the narrative since Kamala Harris took over for Joe Biden, stepped in, has been Kamala, coconut. Like Donald Trump's getting not a lot of oxygen. And I wonder if part of it was an attempt for him to, JVL's got a really good triad today, and it's about, I think he calls it cheap heat. It's like a wrestling term where you basically just do like idiotic stuff in order to get the attention back on you, even if people are kind of mad at you. And that's one thing he's doing. And then two, I do think he likes to get people talking about race, right? She wants race to be subtext, not text. Like the historical nature of her candidacy, she has so far not sort of planted the flag on that as the dominant narrative. She's trying to run on issues and turning the page in the future, and she's letting it be subtext. He wants to make it text. So do you think that there's any way in which he was doing this like intentionally, like mindfully, as opposed to just like crapping the bed on stage?
Look, I think he does do things intentionally, but not with the kind of analytical forethought that some people give him credit for. I mean, it's not 5-dimensional or 64.
But is it like lizard brain? Does he have a certain lizard brain?
Exactly. It's reptilian is what I was about to use.
Yeah.
He has this reptilian instinct for attack and his reptilian instinct he doesn't like, as you say, he doesn't like the fact that he's not the center of attention right now. So he wants that attention back any way he can get it, even if it's harmful. And he cannot help himself. He needs to throw himself out there. He needs to light a fire. And he doesn't know how to do that with any strategy, but he knows how to suck up the oxygen in the room, even if it's harmful to him. He'll do that, and that's what he's done.
So I had one other sort of parse. I don't love to get in Trump's head. I leave that to you. But one thing that did strike me,
a lot of room up there.
Yeah, I know. He did seem to be like, it was like you put a few black women in front of him, giving him, asking him tough questions, and it was like the Kamala Harris the proxy of it, or like he's so mad right now at Kamala Harris. She's so deeply under his skin that like the first black woman to ask him a question, he lashes out like an insane person. Do you think there's a little bit of that going on? And B, do you think that a lot of people have asked me this, and I guess I don't always quite know how to answer, but do you think that there's something specific about a black woman like testing him, giving, that he can't handle for some reason?
Yeah, he can't. I mean, he clearly can't. He can't control himself. He doesn't know how to respond. And, I mean, it's delicious. I mean, it's the perfect irony for this shit show to end with him basically falling apart with a black female opponent. And I'm all here for it. It's just amazing.
Now that you say it, it strikes me that there's some either time is a flat circle or things come full circle, in that he launched his political career by doing the birtherism sort of garbage, and that hopefully he ends his political career doing
Like,
this kind
garbage,
of like,
yeah.
kind of
It's
garbage.
fitting.
That would
It's
be,
fitting.
well, I mean, let's not get ahead of ourselves, but knock on wood that's how it goes.
Well, karma seems to be coming back here. So I'm knocking on. Well, this is a metal desk, but yeah. By
Knock
the way,
on whatever's
here,
handy.
I have new bumper stickers.
Oh, vote for the prosecutor, not the perpetrator. You really went and made them.
And here's another one.
Wow, those are so many words. Kamala
There are
to
a
the
lot of
White House.
words. There are a lot
Donnie
of
to the big house. That one's good.
Yeah.
I also, did I already tell you this, that somebody in our Bulwark chat did Don Old?
That's really great.
Yeah, I feel like that's one word. That'll stick.
That is one,
Don Old.
Yeah.
So you might want to just get your bumper sticker maker fired up and do a couple more. Okay, so we talked about J.D. Vance a little bit. I do want to ask you on a different VP track. I think Kamala's going to announce her VP any minute. Yeah. And I don't think, have we
You
talked
think it's today? Is it today? I haven't following.
I don't know about today, but I think maybe it could be as soon as tomorrow, which is going to be bad because I have a focus group podcast coming out about the VP pick. And if she scoops me, what is she doing to me here?
Over again. You should talk to them. And
I know. Why do people do this to me? But what do you think? Who do you think she should pick? Who's her best choice?
I'm indifferent, not indifferent, but I think any of the people who have been mentioned would be fine. And I think I understand your argument about Shapiro would help nail down Pennsylvania, but also I see, Mike Madrid makes this argument about how, from the standpoint of the border issues and the Latino vote, Mark Kelly might be the best pick, and then I think Tim Walz has sort of impressed me with his gumption. So I think that they've got, assuming that none of these people has any skeletons in their closet that would they will have failed to uncover before picking somebody. I think that any of them would be fine.
Yeah, boy, they are vetting on a tight timeline. So hopefully they get it right here.
Yeah.
Look, I agree with the idea that, there's a bunch of good picks. I'm not going to be mad if she picks any of the people we've been talking about. I do think Shapiro's the best choice, even acknowledging the downsides I hear from people who are saying, we might with the re-raises the Gaza issue. I think phooey to that, but that's me. I understand.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. With Trump going around calling Chuck Schumer a member of Hamas and
let him tell Josh Shapiro he's not really Jewish or whatever he's going to say.
Go for it, Donald. Yeah. Let's see how that goes.
You know why? Because I will just say on this point that the anti-Semitism on the right, Donald Trump had dinner with a white supremacist. Not like Kanye, the white supremacist, even though he is, but the actual self-identified leader of not mainstream white supremacy. Is that, I don't know, but that has a following with Nick Fuentes. And so I think that it would be good. I think this idea that we've seen anti-Semitism on the left, and I'm separating that out from people who are just frustrated with Netanyahu, who are concerned about humanitarian situation in Gaza. But I think that he would bring out what's happening on the right, including with Donald Trump. I think it's a great team. I do think he brings you Pennsylvania, but no bad choices. Okay. All right. We're going to pay some quick bills here, and then we're going to get back to it. We got more to talk about. So our first sponsor today is OneSkin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. George, I've been loving summer, and thankfully I've had OneSkin to help protect my skin while I'm outside in the sun because I burn like a I don't know, biscuit, baby. What do I burn like? I burn. And all of their products are created by skin longevity scientists and are backed by lab and clinical studies, so you know that they work. We love studies. Their OS1 peptide, this is the one that targets the zombie cells that cause lines, wrinkles, and sagging skin, is scientifically proven to reverse skin's biological age at the cellular level. As you can see by George's face, he's reversing aging in real time.
Now, look, I'm out. I need a new shipment. Look, I used it all.
He's always trying to get our advertisers to send him more free stuff.
Yeah, free
So
stuff.
whether you are laying out on the beach, hiking, or heading out on vacation, OneSkin's OS1 powered sunscreens block UV rays while targeting the UV-induced skin aging you already have. I love all of their products. What's really exciting is their new limited edition bundle, Summer Skincare Essentials, which includes their daily moisturizers and broad spectrum sunscreen for the face and body. Love the sunscreen. For a limited time, our listeners will get an exclusive 15% off their first OneSkin purchase using the code AskGeorge when you check out at oneskin.co. As summer heats up, we're going into August here. Give your skin the UV protection, hydration, and cellular support it needs with OneSkin. This one I use, it's keep it at my desk, right? This is just the big body lotion.
Whoa.
Love this one. It gets dry in my office, and so I use this all day long. OneSkin, it's more than skincare. It's about skin longevity, targeting those root causes of aging to help you look and feel your best at every age. So get started today with 15% off using code AskGeorge at oneskin.co. That's 15% off oneskin.co with code AskGeorge. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. So please support our show. George has dogs he needs to feed. Tell them that we sent you. It's time to expect more from your skincare routine.
Well, this stuff doesn't work on their fur.
Don't put it on your dogs.
But
do invest in the health of your skin with OneSkin. Okay, here we go. So, the Supreme Court. There's some reforms. Joe Biden proposed some reforms. And this has been... It hasn't got as much attention. It's mainly sort of banged around elite levels. Wall Street Journal editorial page. Our old colleague Charlie Sykes had a piece about it in The Atlantic. Judge Ludig has come out and had some opinions about one of the elements of it. But I'm very interested in what you think about the different Biden proposals to reform the Supreme Court. So he put forward 3 recommendations this week, which Harris went on to endorse. The first one is the No One is Above the Law amendment, which would effectively undo the Trump presidential immunity decision from the Supreme Court. It would make clear that there is no immunity for crimes a former president committed while in office. Now, I gotta say, enacting a constitutional amendment seems like a long shot, but what do you think?
Yeah, it is a long shot, but I agree with the substance of it. I haven't read the exact language yet, but yeah, absolutely. I think that the Supreme Court's decision was off track. I don't think it was a complete victory for Donald Trump, as I've said in the past, but it gives a bit too much, or significantly too much leeway for presidents to engage in intentional violations of criminal statutes and to get away with it. I just think that is a terrible precedent. I think it's inconsistent with our constitutional history. And even though I don't think it's going to prevent the prosecutions that are now currently occurring of Donald Trump, I think there'll be some significant number of charges left. I do think it's something that needs to be fixed. I don't know that a constitutional amendment will be successful because it's so hard to do.
Yeah, I was trying to remind myself what it takes to pass a constitutional amendment, and it's like 2/3 of both bodies of Congress.
Correct.
Or like 3/4 of the state legislatures. I mean, that means you really need widespread agreement. And so I guess my question is like, which actually, this doesn't seem that controversial. It was different when he was
9 of 13, and now it's just, particularly with the diversity of political distribution that we have in the country, it's just hard to get people. It's hard for people to agree on anything. I mean, it's like if somebody is for something, then somebody is going to be against it just because the people they don't like are for it. Even though, frankly, this cuts every way. I mean, this cuts against lawbreakers generally, and we should all be against lawbreakers no matter what party they come from.
Do you think that this is the kind of thing where if Trump loses and they try to propose it again, like, could then it pass? Like, is it because right now it feels like it's about Trump, it's targeting Trump, that it's so that it's partisan? Because actually the idea that the president's not above law, like 10 seconds ago, was totally like we all just agreed that was true.
Right. And I think that's the problem. I think the problem is everything is viewed in the lens of this polarization that exists where you have people who will defend Trump no matter what he does and what he says. And basically everything that they believe in. It depends on whether it's for or against Donald Trump, or Donald Trump perceives it as being for or against him. Even though, frankly, I don't think this would, even if this were this, I don't think this constitutional amendment would necessarily apply to him. I don't know whether it's retroactive or not. I doubt that it could be. But if it is, so I think that it's going to take some time before people get the Trump aspect out of their system. But then by then, the motivation to do this might not be so great. So, and then we'd be stuck with this Supreme Court decision that will probably sit there forever, because I don't think I hope that we never have another person who tests the margins like Donald Trump did here.
Yeah, right. Well, we didn't need to have these conversations really before Donald Trump started doing all this. That wouldn't even have been in front of the Supreme Court. Okay, so the second proposal, and this is to me, very interesting one, that I'm not sure how I feel about, is about term limits. So Biden supports a system in which the president would appoint a justice every 2 years to serve 18 years on the Supreme Court. This is an idea that's been kicking around for a long time by both conservatives and liberals, because conservatives do typically like term limits. His proposal says that Congress could do this. But what do you think? Would this require a constitutional amendment rather than just legislation?
Yeah, I think it probably could be done legislatively. If it's artfully done. I have to look at the statutes, the draft statute, and some of the analysis accompanying it to really figure it out. But you cannot term limit Article 3 judges as such. I mean, you can't just say 18 years and you're off. But what you can do is you can make it so that you have more than 9 justices, but the justices only sit in panels of 9, and then their seniority or lack of seniority can determine what panels they sit in. And that's kind of what happens in the courts of appeals. And you give people an option to retire and not sit on a regular basis. And then you add to the court you can change the size of the court every time you add somebody, without packing the court by adding 4 seats, like the way, suddenly adding 4 seats the way FDR wanted to do it. And then you make the system fair to both sides by saying a president ordinarily gets to appoint a new justice every couple of years, and then the junior 9 justices sit, and the junior 8 justices and the chief justice sit to hear cases, except when one is recused, and then you can swap in one of the other extra justices. I mean, I think that's kind of system where everybody can be they're not technically term limited, because they basically stay on until they either retire or die, but the court sits only as in panels of 9, and there may be more than 9 justices at any given time, so you pick the youngest 8 or 9. I think that makes sense, actually, and I think that could be done constitutionally. And it's not like the court packing plans that drew the ire of people in the 1930s, or would should draw the ire of conservatives today, because you're not giving one Democratic president the ability to appoint 4 justices to dilute the existing majority. It all, whether the justices get appointed by presidents of different parties depends on the elections going forward. And you don't have to worry about a president not getting any appointments after 4 or 8 years. They'll get at least 2 after 4 years and 4 after 8. So I think it's not a crazy system, and I think it could be done constitutionally. And I think it might be good, because I think the Supreme Court has become too powerful. I think this started with liberal decisions in the 60s and 70s, where they moved probably too quickly on some things, and they thought they could solve every problem on earth, including abortion, and it was a mistake to try to do that. And then now you've got a Supreme Court that goes the other way, that tries to do too much to overturn things in the past and to move the law in their direction. You have a court that's moving too fast and trying to affect policy preferences or ideological preferences in cases that really don't require them to do that, which is what happened in the immunity case, which is what happened in Roe v. Wade, where they just basically decided to answer the next 6 or 7 questions instead of the one question that was actually before them, it undermines the court and undermines. And I think part of the reason why they do that is because they're there for so long. They have such power because they can stay there forever, even if they are taking recreational vehicles from people and getting the loans written down and flying crazy flags in front of their houses. I mean, it doesn't. I think that these people have become too powerful, and the one way to cut down on the power is to create this system where they're appointing new justices every 2 years, and the other ones, the older ones, the ones who have been there more than 18 years, get to do less over time.
Let me ask you this: if there were 6 liberal justices and 3 conservative justices, do you think this would be being floated?
Well, I think you'd be seeing conservatives happier with the proposal and liberals less happy with the proposal. I mean, whoever it is who has the advantage at the moment isn't going to like a system that dilutes their current, their current majority. But that said, we just don't know how it's going to come out. We don't know. I think Kamala Harris is going to win the 2024 presidential election. She might not. A Republican or some other party might win it in 2028 when we actually have it. Maybe we can have a 2-party system with 2 normal parties again. We don't know who's going to get to appoint the next 2, 4, 6, 8 justices, because it's all going to depend on basically who wins elections. And so you don't know how this is actually going to cut out, but at least you have a system in which justices don't basically accrete power and are deciding cases for 30 years. You basically have fresh blood coming in every couple of years, and somebody else kind of sits out on the other end except to replace recused justice. So I think it would temper the court, because people are going to think of themselves as, who ascend to the court, as a little less important than they currently do.
Well, this is my question, though. I wonder if that's true. I mean, it does seem is it possible it makes politics even more blood sporty than it already is if you knew every election meant that somebody's going to get to put 2 judges on?
I don't agree with that, because I think one of the problems that we've had is that the Supreme Court has become this center of controversy in confirmation hearings, precisely because you just don't know when you're going to get another one. You don't know. You could be pointing, you pick somebody and you swap somebody who's 80 for somebody who's 50, and that person could be on the court for 30 or 40 years. You don't know. And so every time, and you're waiting for people to get sick, and what happens to them, and are they going to make it through the next term? And you have all of this drama that makes each appointment even more important than it otherwise should be. Whereas if you have a situation where you're going to get somebody this year and you get somebody 2 years from now, and you'll replace somebody else 2 years from then, it may not be such a bad system.
What if is there not? I guess I sort of agree that, the way that Ruth Bader Ginsburg just, unwilling to give up that seat and then, passes away. Like, there's definitely, it's become perverse to some degree, but are there not other ways besides this? Like, is this the most elegant solution on this, or could it be just age limits? Like, nobody under 45, no one over 75.
Well, you can't, you'd have that. See, if you had age limits, you'd probably have a constitutional problem.
Okay.
You can't kick somebody off the court who doesn't want to go off the court. But you can change but if you keep them on the court, but just have different methods of assigning who gets to sit on cases, panels of 3 in the courts of appeals, panels of 9 in the Supreme Court, you might get something, you probably could do it constitutionally, I think. I mean, I haven't done the full analysis and read all the stuff I probably should read, because, there's other stuff going on. But I kind of think the system actually would tamp things down over time, a new system, because the current one we have just is out of control.
Yeah, I've
thought this for quite a long time. It's not a response to any particular decision in the past few years. I've thought this for a while, that we ought to think about some kind of other system.
I'm interested in it. I will say, as a norms, values, and institutions kind of person, I don't love the idea of just like messing with the Supreme Court because we don't like how it's going. And so I think we should talk about this more times and really mull it over. I'd be interested in digging in even deeper. But for now, I want to get to the third thing that's in there, which is that you kind of touched on this, the binding code of conduct for the Supreme Court. So Biden wants Congress to pass binding enforceable conduct and ethics rules that require justices to disclose gifts, refrain from public political activity, and recuse themselves from cases in which they or their spouses have financial or other conflicts of interest. This one also seems a little bit self-evident to me, except like, should Congress do that, or is that the job of the court, like to set their own? Is it like a separation of powers issue where the court should
I don't think there's a separation of powers issue. I mean, I think the court can set rules for itself, obviously, but I think there are all sorts of rules governing ethics that Congress has already promulgated for the lower courts, and there's no reason why it shouldn't promulgate a stricter set of rules for the Supreme Court, particularly since the nature of the Supreme Court docket is such. It's not just that, you hear these blockbuster cases about controversial issues like abortion and race discrimination and so on and so forth. All their cases are extra important, even the business cases and other cases on other issues that you might not even think about, because the cases that go up to the Supreme Court are the ones that involve issues that recur over and over again generally. And so deciding one case can decide hundreds of cases in the lower court. And so just because you know who the parties are in that one case that's for the Supreme Court doesn't mean that you know the names of everyone who's affected by that one case, because there are hundreds of other cases and cases that might not have even been brought yet that could be affected by the Supreme Court's ruling, which makes it all the more important that disclosure rules and that restrictions on the ability to accept gifts be even more stringent for the Supreme Court, because everything they do affects so many people, even people you may not know exist at the time. So I think it's just important that these rules be tightened for the Supreme Court, and frankly, I would be happy to see them give Supreme Court justices a big raise to make up for all of these rules, because I think that I think the judges generally are, and I know people don't like to hear that, but when you compare what people in private practice make to what judges make, we're not necessarily getting the best. We're not necessarily. We need to pay judges more because they have a certain, they have a special set of legal talents that can command a lot of money in the private sector, and we should be rewarding people for taking government jobs and sacrificing what they could have made out in the private sector. I mean, they're never going to make in government service what they make in the private sector, but we can at least make it a little better for them.
I agree with that. I really agree with paying people more. Okay, so speaking of paying, let's pay some bills. And then on the other side of this, I want to talk to you about Psychopac. So our second sponsor today is Lean. Everybody's talking about those weight loss injections because the results are so dramatic. They work by lowering blood sugar and reducing appetite. But what if you need to lose weight but don't have the money and don't like weekly shots? That's why doctors created a weight loss supplement called Lean, and the results are remarkable. The studied ingredient in Lean have been shown to lower your blood sugar, burn fat by converting it into energy, and curb your appetite and cravings so you're not as hungry. But listen, Lean is not for the casual dieter with only a few pounds to lose. The doctors at Brickhouse Nutrition created Lean for frustrated dieters with 10 or more pounds to lose. So, George, I got to tell you, they sent us some free stuff to the office, and the guys in my office have been trying this out, and all they talk about is how good they feel, how they don't feel hungry, and I mean it. So what I've seen from them, and they're already starting to drop some weight. These guys just sit at the desk all day and stuff. So
you don't make them run around.
I don't make them run laps. Like, that's what I do with my kids to burn them out. But so it's really great to just add lean into your daily routine rather than to have something injected into your body. Well, let's get you started with 15% off and free rush shipping so you can add lean to your healthy diet and exercise plan. Visit takelean.com and enter Ask George for your discount. That's promo code AskGeorge at takelean.com. All right, George, so I want to talk a little bit about your PAC, Psychopac. I think it's called the Anti-Psychopath Political Action Committee, Psychopac for short. You did the most amazing thing, probably with the help of one Barry Rubin. But it was, you guys got this ad turned around from yesterday's NABJ conference like that. You had it out last night.
Barry is amazing. Barry had all these clips, and then we talked about how to use them, and presto, he made it happen. It's just amazing.
Okay, so let's listen to it.
I want anybody running for president to take an aptitude test, to take a cognitive test. I think it's a great idea.
We agree, because you're insane.
She was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn, and she became a black person.
What does it mean to turn black?
She failed her law exam. She didn't pass her law exams.
Mr. President, are you saying she wouldn't have had, just to be clear,
I'm just giving you the facts.
He did crap the bed today. The only question is whether he's going to roll around in it or get up and change his sheets.
Chuck Schumer has become a Palestinian. He's become a proud member of Hamas.
He did crap the bed today.
They couldn't get their equipment working or something. They have bad equipment. And the mics are really in lousy shape that happen to be taking black jobs. You had the best.
What exactly is a black job, sir?
A black job is anybody that has a job.
He did crap the bed today.
I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner. When you continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
Why did you choose J.D. Vance?
I chose him because he's a very strong believer in work.
He did crap the bed today.
And then you were half an hour late, just so we understand, especially when you're 35 minutes late. You're the one that held me up at 35 minutes.
He did crap the bed today.
When Time Magazine asked you if you would consider pardoning all the rioters, you said, yes, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely, I would. I would pardon them.
Convicted.
And by the way, the Supreme Court just well...
He did crap the bed today.
Learn more at psychopac.org. Anti-Psychopath PAC Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's great. Super funny. You managed to get some of the crazy stuff that he said at that conference. Also, a lot of the reactions.
And the rally. He had a rally last week where he said some crazy stuff.
I know you don't like Scott Jennings, but that line about he crapped the bed, the question
it was a great line. I thought
funny.
Scott nailed it. And it's also nice to show Donald that the people who may be impressing him on television at any given moment sometimes say bad things about him.
Uh-huh. Yeah, even our boy Scott Jennings.
Yeah.
Well, what's your plan? What are you doing with this?
We're going to do that. Well, look, I mean, the whole object is we're going to, we want to show him that people don't take him seriously, that they laugh at him, that he is crazy, that people think the things that he says are crazy, and we want to drive that home to him because that makes him crazy, and he will say more crazy things, and we have a little cycle going. In fact, that's what sort of has happened. I mean, we went on air. Actually, cable in Bedminster and Palm Beach last Thursday, and by Monday he had sent out a social media post attacking us, and then yesterday he was babbling on at his rally about Hannibal Lecter again, but talking about Hannibal Lecter as a psycho, note the choice of word, and also talking about they want to say that I'm cognitively impaired. I mean, basically, we got to him. And it doesn't take much, and I think a lot of people need to start doing this, not just us. I think the campaign should do it. I think, the Lincoln Project did one, and they got mentioned. They got a nice honorable mention with us, too, the other day. And I think the more that, the thing about Trump is he can't control himself. He sees this, and you can tell him, Donald, you're the only person in the entire world watching this because they're not putting this on the air in Toledo. Okay, doesn't matter. Because he's such a narcissist. Everything is about him in the here and now. And if he sees it, he gets mad. And And when he gets mad, he starts talking about things he shouldn't be talking about, like whether or not he's deranged and whether or not he's a psycho and Hannibal Lecter. He starts talking about these things. I'm a stable genius. He basically goes and it becomes the issue of the day for him once you distract him with a criticism. And that's what we want to show. This is a man who, as Hillary Clinton said in 2016, he can be baited with a tweet. Well, he can be baited with a 1-minute ad on cable news. He can be baited by anything. And he does not have the emotional stability to be president of the United States. As we saw for 4 years, and we don't want to see for another 4.
Yeah, you know what I like about what you're doing? Well, one, I like that you put your own money in. I know that you did that. You've been really putting your money where your mouth is this cycle. But also that you have like a clear sense of what you're doing, right? You are not trying to raise $90 million and spread it all over the place and say you're going to move swing voters or anything like that. You are just focused on, it is audience of one stuff. But if anybody wants to send you a few shekels anyway, where do they go? They
go to psychopac.org, and you can give $34.34 if you'd like, or $343.
What's the significance of that 34?
34 felony conviction. and you can give, and some people were really, really generous, and they gave $3,434.34. That's quite a number of people, and I was just really thrilled. And in fact, I want to call these people and tell them how wonderful they are.
Great. Well, before we wrap up, I do have a couple listener questions that I want to get to.
Sure.
First of all, I do want to say that a few different mental health professionals wrote in to affirm your use of the DSM and narcissistic personality disorder for Trump in the last episode. So way to go. Nailed that. But given this is a legal podcast, we usually get a lot of legal questions. But because of all the political excitement, we've been getting more political questions in the past few weeks. So here's one from a listener named Brad. Up until recent events, the general belief has been that whoever the election is about, come election day, will lose. Are we talking about Trump? Biden wins. Talking about Biden? Trump wins. Does that theme ring true now that it's Harris versus Trump?
No, absolutely. And I've been saying that's a line that I've been saying. I said it in 2020. I'll say it again now. And I think the problem that we had with Joe Biden was it was becoming very difficult to see Trump becoming the issue if we were just stuck on Joe Biden and his condition and his debate performance, even though, frankly, Trump shows every bit as much cognitive decline. He just shows it a little more energetically, because he's ranting and raving all the time. I mean, it just was hard to make Trump the issue when Joe Biden was perceived as having an issue. I think the two couldn't be compared, but as long as people were talking about Joe Biden and his being old, it was making it hard for anything to get through about Trump. And now that you've got Kamala Harris there, she's brand new, spanking brand new and shiny for the public, and people are excited by that, and they're no longer focused on Biden's, potential downsides. And so Trump can become the issue again. The real issue for Trump is going to be, can he make Harris the issue? Because that's the only way he wins. And right now, he doesn't know, he can't figure out how to do that. I mean, talking about whether she's black or Indian is just insane. It doesn't help him. It doesn't change anything. It looks stupid. It looks weak. So he's got to find something else to hit her with, and it doesn't look good for him if he can't figure that out real fast.
Yeah. Okay,
but
so here's one.
There's a long time between now and November, so we'll see.
It's true. We got 3 months to go. Okay, here's one more question. Last one.
Yes.
This one's from Jackie. Given the change to the top of the ticket, do you think it's a good thing that Trump's sentencing in the New York case got pushed back to September? It seems like Harris is going to be able to pounce on it in a way that Biden couldn't have in July.
Yes, I thoroughly agree with it. It wasn't something that I liked when it first happened, but we didn't know exactly what was going to happen. I mean, July was an incredibly amazing month. I mean, historically, it's one of the more significant months we probably had in our lifetime. I mean, from a standpoint of just the twists and turns of American politics, July is like 5 years. And so it actually became a good thing that Trump's sentencing got put off until September. And between now and then, She's going to have some great days because she's going to have a nice convention. I assume the convention is going to go nicely and smoothly because that's the way it looks like it's going. She's been on offense. She's going to have basically the bully pulpit to herself for a week in Chicago, and where she can go, and do her whole prosecutor versus the perpetrator thing, which I think is great. And she's going to roll out her vice presidential nominee in the next coming few days, and that's going to be hopefully great. And so it's going to be perfect. It's going to be perfect timing for them to pivot right back to Trump's criminality back in September. And he might very well get a jail term. And I have a few ideas of what Psychopac will be doing if he gets a jail term. And I think, it's going to be a big deal if he gets a jail term.
All right. Thank you, Jackie, for that response. Okay, George, we didn't do a ton of legal news today, but thanks as always for talking with me. It was great. So thanks to all of you again for listening. Don't forget to hit subscribe, leave us a review on your podcast app, email us at askgeorge@thebulwark.com, and we will see you next week.
Well, George Conway, he's a man with a plan. Got to sit down with Sarah Longwell, take a stand, explain all the legal problems they're piling high. With Donald Trump, oh my, oh my, oh my. He said, Sarah, let me break it down for you. There's obstruction of justice, corruption too, the legal tangles and troubles, they're growing fast. It's a storm that's gonna last.